Welcome back to the Echoes of Prehistory, a special series from Claw and Fossil where we look at the ancient world through the lens of human geography because every fossil, every artifact, every climate shift is really a chapter in the story of how geography really shaped us. Today it's just me, no co host, and I'm talking about three forces that changed the human condition forever: fire, stone, and soil. They sound simple, but each represents a different way humans interacted with the environment, from learning to adapt to learning to control to finally learning how to reshape it. And through the lens of AP Human Geography, these three are not just technologies, they are spatial revolutions. They explain how early humans used environment, adapted the constraints, diffused ideas, and ultimately built civilizations. So let's start with the beginning. At fire. Over a million years ago, somewhere in East Africa, early humans, Homo erectus, discovered something actually powerful. They learned not just to use fire, but to control it. Now, in AP Human Geography terms, that's the earliest form of human environment interaction, the way people adjust and modify their surroundings. We see evidence of this in sites like Wonderwork Cave in South Africa, where charred bones and ash layers date back to roughly 1 million years. Fire was the first step in humans going from being shaped by the environment to actively shaping it. Fire changed everything. It allowed for cooking, which released more calories from food, supporting brain expansion. It provided protection from predators. It carried and created light in the dark, extending human activity beyond daylight hours. But here's the geographic link: this discovery didn't just happen randomly. It happened in savanna environments, open grasslands prone to lightning strikes and natural fires. The landscape itself presented a fire recurring phenomenon. Humans observed it, studied it, and eventually mastered it. This ties to the APHD concept of possibilism, the idea that the environment sets its limits, but human culture decides to overcome them. First was our defiance of limitation. Here's something philosophical. Fire created community. It pulled people together at night. It's the first social technology, a physical manifestation of human cooperation, and it began as a geographic event. And next comes stone, the foundation of technology. The earliest stone tools date back to over 2.6 million years in sites like Old Dubai, Khorj, in modern day Tanzania. These were simple flakes used for cutting meat and scraping hides. But they reveal something critical. Humans learn to look at landscape and see potential. This is where site and situation come in. A major concept in AP Human Geography, a site refers to the physical characteristics of a location, like the resources available there, and a situation describes how that location connects to others. If your group lived near riverbeds rich in flint, obsidian, or basalt, you had the materials to make sharper tools. That gave your group an advantage: better hunting, better defense, better survival. Stone technology clusters are a prehistoric example of resource based spatial development. Innovation didn't spread evenly, it concentrated where raw materials existed. Then, through cultural diffusion, these ideas moved outward. Groups traded tools, taught techniques, or carried them as they migrated. We can literally map the spread of innovation from the Oldowan tools of East Africa to Achuelan hand axes across Eurasia. Geography dictated innovation patterns, and humans created networks of knowledge long before we had written routes or created even a language. Even now, this pattern hasn't changed, just some replace with, instead of obsidian, it's silicon. The same principles that made ancient tool-making centers thrive are what make modern technology hubs like Silicon Valley or Shenzhen thrive today. The environment gives, humans innovate, and culture spreads. And now for the final piece: soil. The story of agriculture begins roughly 10,000 years ago at the dawn of the Neolithic Revolution. And once again, geography is at the center. Agriculture didn't appear everywhere. It emerged independently in specific earth regions, fertile areas with right climate, water access, and biodiversity. One of the many places are the Fertile Crescent in the Middle East, the Indus valleys of South Asia, the Yellow River Basin in China, and the Nile River Valley in Egypt, and parts of Mesoamerica and the Andes in the Americas. These were all environmental sweet spots where seasonal floods deposited nutrient-rich silt, creating predictable growing conditions. People didn't invent farming out of curiosity. They were guided by their surroundings. This is a textbook example of environmental determinism, the theory that the physical environment shapes cultural development. But over time, humans pushed back against it, showing possibilism again. Irrigation, terraces, and crop rotation were ways to manipulate geography, not just obey it. From AP Human Geography in a perspective way, agriculture marks the shift from nomadic subsistence to sedentary society. It's when humans built their first cultural landscapes, visible imprints of civilization on nature. Villages appeared along rivers, surplus food allowed specialization, as in potters, builders, and traders. Populations grew, Societal hierarchies formed, and soon cities emerged. All of it from writing systems to trade networks began with soil and geography. So when we say geography shaped humanity, we mean it literally. The distribution of fertile land, the rhythm of the seasons, the predictability of rivers created civilization itself, connecting the dots. Fire, stone, soil as a geographical sequence. Let's take a step back for a second and see the pattern. Fire represents adaptation using nature to survive. Stone represents innovation, transforming nature into tools. Soil represents domination, reshaping nature for our own ends. Each step is both environmental and cultural, the perfect intersection for geography and anthropology. From an APHD standpoint, you could think of it as the three revolutions: the environmental mastery revolution, which is fire, the technological diffusion revolution, which is stone, the agricultural settlement revolution, which is soil. Each builds on the last, showing how the environment and human creativity continuously co evolve. And here's where opinion comes in. I think people today underestimate how much geography still actually controls us. Everywhere we live, every technology we use, every conflict we have, it all comes down to geography. We still cluster near coasts, still build along rivers, and depend on resources that the planet unevenly distributes. In human geography, we still talk about core periphery models, resource dependency, and spatial inequality, ideas that all trace back to the same prehistoric truth. Location determines opportunity. When ancient humans discovered fire, it was because they lived where lightning struck often. When they crafted tools, it was because their environment provided flint and obsidian. When they farmed, it was because rivers of Mesopotamia or the Nile actually gave them fertile soil. Every stage of progress was grounded in physical space. That's why studying prehistory isn't nostalgia, it's context. It explains why cities exist where they do, why cultures form differently, and why geography still defines destiny. So, what does it actually mean for us now? In a world of satellites, AI, and megacities, it means geography never stopped being the silent architect of human life. We just stopped noticing. When you trace our story from controlling fire to shaping soil, you realize every advancement has actually been built on the understanding of the land beneath our feet. The fossils, the rock layers, the river valleys, they aren't relics. They're the fingerprints of human geography written in deep time. We didn't just evolve on this planet, we evolved with it. And maybe the great revolution or innovation won't come from just escaping Earth, but from finally actually learning how to live with it again. This has been the Echoes of Prehistory, Episode 2, Fire, Stone, and Soil. Join me next time as we explore the great migrations, how geography moved us, and how the patterns of the ancient travel still shape the map of the modern world. Until then, remember every civilization begins with a landscape, and every landscape tells the story of a civilization.